Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. So we did this video late last night. We didn't put it up on YT for certain reasons, but anybody can go and check it out over on Patreon. And again, we want to thank all our Patreons for your support.
Thank you very, very much.
Absolutely. You know, there's so much going on in these times. This is a very, very scary, sobering thing, to say the least. You have over 2,000 or around 2,000 people that were basically caught sleeping by a landslide and literally buried alive in Papua New Guinea last week. What can you say about this? You know, it's just a horrible happening in these times where we're seeing incredible storms, flash flooding like we've never seen before in our lifetimes, but there's tons of evidence this type of thing happens regularly on this planet.
This is really, really sad because from what I understand, Australia has offered, or Australia is going to come over and help with recovery of the bodies. And you can see the elders, they're concerned. They know that if they bring heavy equipment in and start digging, it could, damage the bodies. And that's upsetting to them. I mean, this whole thing is upsetting to them. And I think what the elders want to do is they do want to make it just a big burial, and which is just absolutely heartbreaking because they also said in there the majority of them are children. And I feel...
Not necessarily the majority, but there are a lot of children, probably.
Yeah, a lot of children, and so heartbreaking. And you can see the family members just sitting around, just sort of dazed and confused. And I don't know. What do you do with something like this? What words do you say? I mean, how do you comfort? This is a big one.
Yeah, as I look, 555 views. It is the manifestation of a time of transition that's extremely dangerous. I do think that the times that we're walking into right now, as I've shared, I thought 2024 would be the most dangerous year perhaps that we would see in many ways. And then some things might actually ease off a little bit, but 2024 has always felt like it has the big red signs going: danger, caution, use your awareness, stay sober, stay as sharp as you can in these times. Obviously, when you think of stuff like this, it makes you think of Mudflood. They were talking about like so many houses under there, buildings under there, stores under there, they're just completely covered over in mud. Yeah, and then you have the tornadoes, big outbreaks last night. As of making this, they said that at least 18 people lost lives from the last outbreak, because it's just been one after another. It's just been so intense what we are seeing. And the Great Awakening is happening as well. You know, we covered this last night. This was really, truly horrific. That was in Texas, north of Dallas-Fort Worth, where people pulled off into a gas station. Numerous people did. And they all took cover in the gas station. And numerous people were mentioning that they heard a voice yell out, "Into the bathrooms, quick!" And so a bunch of people got into the bathrooms, and then the whole building fell down around them. And it was one gentleman's quick thinking inspiration. Again, a lot of times when something happens like that, it's literally somebody can hear their guides, and their guides can already kind of see what the outcome's going to be, and then they pick up on it, and you get this intuition. Yeah, of course, we know you should go to the lowest place, the most secure place inside. again, it's thinking clearly in times of chaos that can save lives. Right now, when we look to the power outages, Kentucky seems to be in the worst shape. You have 182,000, almost 183,000 without power over in Kentucky. Missouri was hit hard, 66,000 without power there, 63,000 in Arkansas. Over in Alabama, 78,000. West Virginia, 72,000. Virginia, 61,000. 20,000 in North Carolina. 37,000 in Georgia. And Indiana, 16,000. So the storms are going to be more Eastern-centered. Again, be aware, watch carefully, because you never know in these times. As we've talked about Into Thin Air, who does, by the way, subscribe to us as well. He and others, him and Dutch especially, have been pointing out every single day, it seems, the radar beams and then the storms. Yes, this is what we've been saying. And, I will admit, like when I first started the channel, before I had use of Cindy's intuitive abilities, I was more in line with, I always knew there was technology going on, but I was thinking this is mostly natural. And yeah, they're doing some augmentation, but now it's to the point where I think, we would be perfectly fine if it wasn't for the technology, because the technology is what takes something that could be a dangerous situation and turns it deadly. And, again, saying that, I don't know what's going to happen with this, because, this is the reality that is catching on in the minds of so many people. And this is Dutch talking about October 28th, 2012. A radar pulse happened on a clear night over the Canada-Mexico radar site. Around the same time this event happened, a rare 7.7 quake struck up off the west coast of the Pacific Northwest, Vancouver Island, Canada, and Hurricane Sandy, that Frankenstorm, was hitting the east coast of the U.S. So, again, showing, and I noticed when I was a kid studying history and war, that it really seemed like there was some sort of consciousness connection between periods of great angst, war, etc., tensions of a geopolitical nature, and the bigger earthquakes and storms, hurricanes, etc., etc. And this was just something that I noticed very, very young. But again, it's part of a bigger agenda, is what I've come to. Well, that's my opinion. It's part of a bigger agenda. They are used in tandem. The wars are created to serve a purpose. They are completely manufactured. And the storms, are taken from something that maybe some people will have lost some power to, where you have massive loss of life.
It's, I really get frustrated at those who they say, oh, it's earth changes, as if that's the only thing that's going on. I mean, if people understood the technology and who's behind the technology, then we would be turning and having our focus on those controllers who are at the buttons of the technology. But if you just say it's earth changes, well, everybody feels like they have no power and they're just terrified. And of course they're scared, because they're going up against the big bad earth and she's going to kill me, or the big bad sun, it's going to kill me. No, the earth and the sun are not our enemies. They are of us. We are them. They are us. I mean, we work together. It's these controllers that have these technologies that are really going after the people so that they can stay in control. I get so angry, and you see all the death and destruction they cause. It could just make you vomit. Sorry.
Yeah. Or again, because of the religious mindset that they feel like they deserve it. Because of the gaslighting that goes on of a religious nature with the paradigms that are pounded into people's heads. This is the Great Awakening. So, again, there's going to be this separation of the sheeple and those that really do totally awaken. At the same time, all the prophecies that we have, they're there for multiple purposes. Some of them are totally about just simply making sure that we are using our co-creative power to manufacture them. Other ones, are given, I believe, with the intent that we can change the timelines. But the bottom line is that absolutely nothing is set in stone. It really is not set in stone. And even the best seers, it's impossible to see 100% clearly because you have so many different consciousnesses forming this reality together. And that's one thing that came out in yesterday through meditation, was just stressing the fact that this go round is different than the last go round. Every single go round is a totally new go round. And again, it's more like a spiral. You can see it from the top as a circle, but when you tilt it to the side, if you get what I mean, it is a spiral. And as we come into these different times that in some ways are like the old times, because again, we're heading out of one yuga and heading into another, the reality is they play out different. Again, it is absolutely mind-blowing how clearly all this is explained in the Vedic text. It really is. Everything from time dilation, how traveling away from the earth at the speed of light, when you come back, if you went a year out at the speed of light and then turned and came straight back in, you would only have lost 2 years time or aged 2 years time, but everybody else would have aged greatly. They understood all this. They understood the distances. They understood the age of the universe. They understood things that they could not have understood with what we have been given. So again, it shows a much greater understanding of how the universe really, really works. And I think it's fascinating. And again, it comes from beings that many have called gods, but in reality, they're all extraterrestrial and interdimensional beings. That is the reality. And you get some people, with their pointy caps on saying, every single one is a demon. Well, some are demonically oriented and some aren't. But again, it's that dumbing down of society that leads to those conclusions, because we have been dumbed down. All the fluoride, all the foods that are pure poison, pure toxins, all the frequencies, all these things have lowered IQs and lowered people's intuitive abilities, as well as ability to just simply understand basic things. So we have an X class again, X 2.9, and as you see, it's coming from that familiar number, 3664, as 3664 is turning back around, coming around to face us again. So the CME that's associated with this, they say won't hit Earth, because again, it's pointing off to the side of us, but it's going to come and start to face us. And the reality is, we haven't really seen any impact from all the impacts of the energy that the sun has sent us as far as earthquake and volcano activity, which to me, honestly, feels pretty darn ominous.
Yeah, I really felt that we would have more of a disruption in the technology. We had a little bit, but I don't know. I just thought it would be more massive, from what everyone was saying. It does seem like Earth is doing her best to keep things balanced. You can see the technology on the radar that's being used to create other things, which is just absolutely horrible. But there's also a lot of people out there. I know a lot of you guys are doing what you can to help ground and help minimize and mitigate a lot of the consequences that are being cast from a different entity. different people who, are kind of like behind the curtains, pushing the buttons and pulling the levers and being really brave because they know they're not the ones who are going to be in trouble. They know their loved ones are not suffering because they have a way based on your blood, sweat, and tears to keep themselves in a safe spot. And it's just really unfair.
And there are some signs of there's some signs that we can take positively, or we could take as a warning. Mass exodus of British politicians. This is unprecedented. Over 120 MPs all across, all parties are literally quitting their jobs. Why are they? That's the question. What do they think is coming? Buckle up, people. Well, it's fascinating to see it. Part of it is, are they terrified? Are they terrified of being exposed? Are they literally heading to some little island retreat in the middle of nowhere? Are they going to try to just totally disappear because of what they've taken part in? Yeah, that could definitely be part of it. Or are they heading for the hills because they know what's planned for, say, in this case, the UK? Because when you look to those DEA, GEL numbers, UK is supposed to have 15 million people in 2025. There's like 68, 69 million people right now. Okay, so something big is coming. Yeah, it could be. I think it's probably both, as what we had picked up years ago was Cindy said you won't see any of these people out in public walking around anymore. It just will never happen because, again, people will be awakened to a certain point. So you have the likes of Angela Leadsom and Theresa May that are amongst those group. Now, we know you're not going to see Kate, right? Kate Middleton. But not only that, check this out. The royal family unexpectedly cancel all plans for next month. Uh-oh. Yeah. King Charles cleared his schedule, or his schedule. Is that how they say it? Schedule? Schedule. I don't know. We speak a different language. Of course, what part of the country you're from here in the U.S., yeah, you could be speaking another language too. Queen Camilla cleared her schedule. Prince William cleared his. The royal family will postpone events which may appear to divert attention or distract from the election campaign. No, don't buy it. Don't buy it at all. Are they heading for the hills? We've talked about Christoph, the Polish psychic. This is clear seeing. Small channel. So what this channel does is they take his readings that he gives on a regular basis and they chop it up into little bits as they translate it and put it into closed captions. So in his last one, he was picking up and he laughed because what did he see? Now, a lot of these are not from the day before because it takes this person time to change it. So they do a good job in giving timestamps. So some of it's from weeks ago, even previous months occasionally. But they also kind of give a line of thinking in what he's picking up. And he remote views. He takes the paper, puts it to his forehead, and gives the impressions. Well, he was sharing in his latest one, he laughed because he sees the royal family leaving. He sees them like heading for the hills. So when I saw this, it's like, okay, he's picking up on this. I want to say he got that information around the 21st, so that was about 6 days ago. He's pretty good. He is a pretty good one. And so he sees them heading for the hills. He sees them literally abdicating, like giving up the throne. He sees that there's things that have been planned for a very long time that are being put into place right now. This one over here, it will start at night in Great Britain. He was picking up this is probably a lot of this is the lead into this one over here. But he's talking about, again, the war starting and how things go with the war. And he was saying that with the war, the draft that's coming around pretty much our NATO countries is going to be kind of like the thing that puts the nail in the coffin, where people openly rebel against their countries. And this has been also something that others have picked up. Alois picked it up. Nostradamus picked it up. Other people have picked up this as well, like in that World War III timeline. As people wake up, they'll realize, wait a minute, they're just getting us to fight each other. No, I'm not going into the service. And here, of course, yesterday we were talking about Rishi, talking about mandatory 1 year service. Of course, that mandatory 1 year service, when there's a war on, everything gets turned off and you're just stuck. You're in there. You're not getting out. They're going to keep you in there. And so this is what will push to the brink society when it realizes that they're only doing this to cover their butts. They're doing it because we're all waking up to all the other programs going on. And then, then that's really when the jig is up.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of moving parts, and people are finally realizing that, hey, these moving parts don't make any sense. This doesn't fit here, and that doesn't go there. So what's going on? And they're only left to ask the hard questions. But this guy's energy, I feel, is very real, and it's really curious. I don't know if I'll ever get confirmation on this, but I picked up possibly grandfather, father, is a really well-trained psychic, really, and he's getting this from his own DNA. So he's pulling this from family DNA, which I find is very interesting, because these are the ones usually they like to hold down. So I'm glad this guy is out there and he's given this information. It's a blessing. It's something that makes sense to me. The things that he does, I do. So, and I just do intuitively, and I think he does intuitively, and that's the way we read things. So he does this thing where he puts a white sheet of paper over his head, over his third eye, and then he just starts talking about what he sees, and that's what I do. I don't use a literal white sheet of paper, but I put a white sheet of paper over my third eye, and then the story starts to fill in, and I start to say what I see. So, and he has all these little methods that I'm like, wow, he it's kind of really curious. So I do think that he's reading some DNA. He feels very legitimate to me. I like his energy. I think he's somewhat tormented because of the things that he does see, and I understand that too. Sometimes there's things, and he's really brave enough to put it out there, and I'm glad that he is, so that people can prepare themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just find it interesting. So, again, we're in for a very, very bumpy ride. But like what Cindy kept saying to me this morning is, this is for good, though, because what's happening is it's all being exposed. Yeah, they're going to do their best to cover themselves up. Yes, they are going to do their best to cause all sorts of chaos and disruption while they, try to salvage whatever they can salvage. Again, this, when we talk about CONS piracy theories, we have this book too, John Coleman, this published in 1992. So this is from 32 years ago, talking about the Committee of 300. And yeah, I've read this many times. At least 4 billion useless eaters shall be eliminated by 2050. Now this, ultimately they say they want a manageable level of 1 billion on the planet, of which 500 million would consist of Chinese and Japanese, is what they were saying back there, just because they have a tendency in these cultures to obey a little bit more without questioning. As we could see, this is 32 years ago. When you look to Russia, I saw somebody posting saying that Russia is going to start the war with China And then at some point in time, they would end up fighting against China. That also is something that I've heard going back to, I want to say, the 80s, a long time. And Russia, so much of Russia is what we would think of as, Tartary, Tartaria. Again, Atlantis was a global civilization where ETs interacted on a daily basis with everybody else around, and just a recognition that ultimately, Homo sapiens didn't pop up out of the blue on Earth, springing up out of the ground. No, we were, again, migrants, immigrants from other places where war has been ravaged, and came here, was, brought here. Because this place could be used to support life, and originally it was Tiamat. And when you look again to the Sumerian tales, they make Tiamat out to be the dragon, and it's all about conquering the dragon, so to speak. But there's so many different ways of looking at the allegory, and of course the dragon or the serpentine energy could also represent the Kundalini energy. And you could say also that the system is conquering the Kundalini energy and keeping humanity in the dark, because, again, if we don't have an illuminated energy field and an operating third eye, then we have to literally go off of what's in books. We have to go off of using the analytical mind instead of our intuitive abilities, which we have naturally. And that's what leads to all sorts of misinformation, disinformation.
It does. And, it is a little bit scary to go off and jump off into the intuitive pool, but to me, it's going to become more and more necessary. You're going to need to hear that little voice a little bit clearer with the upcoming days, weeks, and months. I do feel a lot of changes coming up, and that's why I think these royals are clearing their schedule. And the changes that are coming are it's going to be worse before it gets better, but it is going to give way to a better system. I think it's just going to be really hard to hold that thought while people are going through the various different struggles that they have to deal with, because let's face it, we really have been softened. We've been spoiled in a lot of ways, as far as creature comforts, and we might not always have those. We might have to learn to readjust. I've always felt kind of a little bit of a bumpy landing into a different type of world, with different rules and different ways of doing things, but we will adjust, and it'll be for the better. Now, how long? I kept picking up 11 plus years is what it might take for a turnover. So this is not something that I'm just, that's going to be a quick turnover. No, it's something that's going to take some time. And, we just got to appreciate the gentle, loving softness that life does have to offer, those moments of peace and those moments of love. We're going to have to really cherish them to a much higher degree. And that should help our soul. And that's something we should be doing now, but I think we're just so busy. So many people are busy surviving, and trying to prepare for the chaos, that they don't stop and slow down and appreciate the love that life has to offer. But maybe it's time that we do step back and take a closer look at those things that we have to be grateful for, open that heart chakra, and just be a little bit better.
And on that note, source bless and namaste.
Namaste.